Sometimes, life sets us up for moments we don't see coming, moments that tug at our hearts, test our patience, and remind us that kindness has a funny way of circling back to us. And on one chilly Friday evening, a single dad named Jason found himself standing on the side of a highway shoulder, hands covered in grease, fixing a stranger's broken-down car, while his own was parked behind them, hazard lights blinking like a nervous heartbeat. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be on his way to a blind date, one he'd been trying to avoid all week. But life doesn't always follow our schedule, and that night, it brought him face to face with a woman who would change everything. Before we begin the full story, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Tales, where we share heartwarming stories that remind us how powerful small acts of goodness can be. Like this video, leave a comment about the kindest thing someone's ever done for you, and let's spread positivity together. Jason Turner was a 37-year-old single dad living in a small suburb outside Denver. His days were filled with packing school lunches, late-night laundry, rushing his 8-year-old son, Noah, to baseball practice, and trying to keep up with work emails long after he should have been asleep. Dating was the last thing on his mind, at least until his sister, Emily, decided she was officially done watching him rot like an unused avocado, as she called it. So she set him up with someone. A nice woman, she said. Someone perfect for him, she insisted. Jason wasn't convinced. Every blind date he'd ever been pushed into ended with him staring awkwardly at his drink, wishing he were home reading bedtime stories to Noah instead. But Emily was relentless. She even made the reservation for him. So on that Friday evening, Jason changed out of his work clothes, combed his hair twice, practiced a smile in the mirror that he hoped didn't look too forced, and headed out earlier than he needed to, mostly because he didn't know what else to do with himself. The sun had just dipped behind the mountains when he saw it. A silver sedan pulled over on the shoulder, steam rising from under the hood. At first, Jason told himself to keep driving. He was already nervous about being late, and he really didn't feel like stepping into grease and engine trouble right before a date he wasn't excited about to begin with. But then he saw her. A woman stood next to the car, hugging her coat tight against the wind, shoulders slumped in exhaustion. There was something defeated in the way she stared at the engine, as if it wasn't just the car breaking down, but the entire week crashing down on her. Jason slowed. He didn't even consciously decide to. It was instinct, the kind every parent develops, the kind that says, someone needs help. He pulled over, switched on his hazard lights, and stepped out. "You okay?" he called out. The woman looked up. She was probably in her mid-30s, with curly dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail, and a worry line between her brows that made her look like she'd been fighting one battle after another. Honestly? Not really, she admitted with a tired laugh. My car overheated, my phone's at 2%, and I'm supposed to be somewhere in, she checked her watch. 15 minutes. Jason nodded sympathetically. Pop the hood. Let me take a look. You don't have to. It's fine, he said. I've fixed this exact problem more times than I can count. Old car? Very old, she sighed. He smiled. That makes two of us. Within minutes, Jason was elbow deep in the engine, pointing out the leak and explaining what was going on, far more than she probably needed to know. But she listened anyway, grateful for the distraction from her mounting stress. As he worked, Noah FaceTimed him from home. Jason answered with one hand, his face filling the screen. Dad, you're supposed to be on your way to your date. Noah said, his little voice full of dramatic urgency. Jason winced as the woman laughed softly behind him. I got sidetracked, buddy. Are you helping someone again? Yeah. Well, okay. But don't be late. Aunt Emily said it's rude. Jason chuckled. I'll do my best. When the call ended, he noticed the woman smiling. Your son sounds sweet, she said. He is, Jason replied. He's the reason I know how to fix cars without panicking. 20 minutes later, the engine was running again. Jason wiped his hands on an old towel he kept in the trunk and closed her hood. You should be good to go for tonight, he said. But get that hose replaced soon. She stared at him with an expression that was part gratitude, part disbelief. I can't thank you enough. Seriously. You saved my whole evening. Jason shrugged modestly. Just glad I could help. She hesitated a moment, then asked, do you need to get somewhere? You looked in a hurry. He made a face. A blind date. Ooh, she said with a sympathetic wince. Brave man. Not really, he admitted. Mostly trapped. Do you know what she looks like? Nope. Just a name, Megan. And apparently we're destined or something. The woman's expression flickered, just for a second, as if she'd suddenly forgotten how to breathe. Oh, she said softly. Jason didn't notice. He was already stepping back toward his car. Well, I'd better get going before my sister calls and yells at me again. As he opened his door, the woman spoke quickly. Hey, what's your name? Jason. She opened her mouth like she was about to say something else, something big, but she hesitated. Then she simply smiled and said, drive safe, Jason. You too. He had no idea why she looked both amused and flustered as she waved goodbye. 20 minutes later, Jason was seated at a small Italian restaurant, nervously adjusting the candle in the center of the table. He checked his watch. The reservation time was creeping up, but still no sign of. Someone approached. He looked up. And froze. It was her. The woman from the side of the road. She stopped in front of the table, cheeks flushed with embarrassment and a hint of laughter. Hi, she said softly. I'm Megan. Jason blinked. Then blinked again. No way, he said. She nodded, covering her face with one hand. I was running late. And I didn't want to freak you out on the road. I mean, how do you tell someone, hey, thanks for fixing my engine, also I'm the blind date you were dreading? He laughed, an honest, full laugh he hadn't felt in a long time. Well, he said, for the record, I'm suddenly not dreading anything. She smiled, relieved. Good. Because I wasn't dreading it either, until my car tried to explode. They sat down, and what began as an awkward coincidence quickly turned into something surprisingly natural. The conversation flowed effortlessly, as if they'd known each other far longer than an hour. They talked about work, family, the absurdity of blind dates, and how sometimes life pushes two people together in the strangest ways. At one point, Megan paused and looked at him meaningfully. You know, she said, you could have just driven past me. Most people would have. Jason shrugged. I'm not most people. And, you looked like you needed someone. I did, she admitted. More than you know. By the end of dinner, Jason realized something he hadn't expected. He wasn't thinking about getting home early. He wasn't thinking about escaping the date. He was thinking about how much he wanted to see her again. When they stepped outside, Megan's car rattled to life, a reminder of how their strange, messy meeting began. She leaned out her window and said, Jason, thank you again. Not just for the car. For tonight. He smiled. Same to you. She drove off, only to roll back down the window and add, tell Noah I approve of his manners. Jason laughed. Will do. Later that night, after Noah fell asleep, Jason lay awake replaying everything. The chance meeting. The laughter. The warmth he felt just sitting across from her. Kindness had led him there, not obligation, not luck, but kindness. He never expected anything from helping a stranger, yet it brought him the very thing he didn't know he was missing. And Megan? She later confessed that she'd been terrified of dating again after a painful breakup. But something about the way Jason helped her, without expecting anything, without hesitation, gave her hope she thought she'd lost. Their story didn't end that night. It was only the beginning. Sometimes life brings us the right person at the wrong moment. So it can show us the beauty of kindness at the perfect one. If this story touched your heart, remember, kindness doesn't just fix problems. It opens doors. It heals wounds we don't talk about. It connects people who might otherwise pass each other by in silence. So be the person who slows down. Who helps? Who shows up? Because you